complementary feeding, micronutrient deficiency. So today we'll learn about the macronutrient deficiency. So you know that macronutrient is protein, fat, and carbohydrate. So what we have to know about is deficiency of carbohydrate and deficiency of protein. So carbohydrate deficiency will cause marasmus, and protein deficiency will cause kwashiorkor. So today we are going to learn about kwashiorkor and marasmus. Okay. So it's one of the important cause of the morbidity and mortality, mainly in the developing world. So marasmus and kwashiorkor are the two extreme form of protein energy malnutrition. So if the child has some degree of malnutrition, you may not see this marasmus and kwashiorkor even the child has the protein energy malnutrition. So the symptom of marasmus and kwashiorkor will come only when this malnutrition is very severe. So little bit of malnutrition, to some small extent of malnutrition, there will be only loss of weight and loss of height. You will not see the symptoms of marasmus and kwashiorkor. So only when it become very severe, then only we get the signs of marasmus and kwashiorkor. So if the child does not have marasmus, it is not that he does not have malnutrition. So we always have to take the height and weight of the every patient which we see in pediatrics, and with that we have to find out whether there is malnutrition or not. So cause of malnutrition is poverty. In developing countries, many people are very poor, cannot provide the nutritious food. Ignorance and faulty food habit. So people may believe that eating the junk food, expensive food, they will have proper nutrition to the health, and that is not true. So if you go to the village and all, these people are taking this noodles and all this thing, expensive thing, actually, which is not good for health. Large family, if family is large, a person cannot provide adequate nutrition to all. Closely spaced family, if too many children, very less space in age, so parents will not be able to take care of the children and they will suffer from malnutrition. Working mother is very busy, so she cannot take care of a child or food. Then also the child will develop malnutrition. And medical reason, if some child has some chronic illness, so child may not grow even if you give proper food. So chronic, like chronic congenital heart disease, like tuberculosis, some chronic illness. So how would we assess the nutritional status? It's not only the sign symptom of marasmus and kwashiorkor. We have to look for other thing also. So we have to take the dietary history. So in the first class, I told you how to take the dietary history and how to calculate the nutrition the patient is getting from the food. Yes, you do you remember the first class we did? Do you remember or not? Anybody? So we did in the first class, right? How would you take the nutritional history? Yes or no?
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. So this history we have to take here. So first step is we'll take the history. So in the history we'll take daily intake of type of food that I did. I told you that day. So how much protein he takes, how much calorie he takes. So from the history. So we will not go directly to the examination. This starts from the history. So from history we take the adequate nutrition, adequate calories taken by the child or not. Then on clinical examination we look for nutritional deficiency. So when there is a deficiency of calorie and protein, there will be also deficiency of other micronutrients like vitamin A, D, and also when you'll be examining the patient of malnutrition, we'll look for all the sign of deficiency of other vitamins also. So we learned in the last class that if there is vitamin A deficiency in the eye, we'll look for the Bitot spot. So in the patient of marasmus and kwashiorkor, we start from examining from the head. From the head will be there will be changes in the hair, in the eye you will be getting this Bitot spot, and if there is a vitamin B12 deficiency, there will be angular stomatitis. In the eyes there will be anemia. So what I mean to say is we will be examining from the head, not only we go directly for the weight and the height. So all the this nutritional deficiency we should be examining in the patient. So clinical sign. So then we have to take the anthropometry. So all the pediatric patient, the part of examination is anthropometry. Here we'll take the height, we'll take the weight, we take the mid-arm circumference, and if the child is less than 2 years, we also take the head circumference. So it must be done in the growth and development. So height, weight will take in all, mid-arm circumference will take in the child from 1 year to 5 year, and head circumference will take up to the 2 years child, because you know that brain development will occur maximum in the first 2 years. So mainly head circumference will take in up to the 2 years. And also we have to take the chest circumference. These are the anthropometry. So in anthropometry, weight is the simplest and most widely used reliable index. So only one weight measurement is not enough. Like if the child is sick, like has a diarrhea for 2-3 days, so definitely the child will lose the weight. So one weight loss will not say that child has malnutrition. So we have to keep the regular record. And if the weight and height is constantly low, then we say the child has malnutrition. Height will measure in a stadiometer. Once later, when you come to ward, you'll see this instrument called stadiometer. We'll make the child stand on the stadiometer and take the height. So those child who can stand, we take the height in stadiometer. And those child who are small, less than 1 year, 2 year, we cannot stand, or we take the length in the infantometer. So you take supine measurement, that is a length. And if you take that measurement standing, that is height. Okay. Okay, so this is a growth chart. I think you have in growth and development. Your last class, the teacher must have showed you. So for every child, we take height, weight, and we have to plot in the growth chart. Okay. So in one side there'll be age, and another side there'll be weight. So in growth chart, we have three type of chart you have to fill: weight for age, height for age, and weight for height. So when you be coming to the clinical class, we'll give you the logbook, and in logbook we'll get that growth chart, and you have to plot height and weight according to this. So when you plot height and weight, this should be light, at least in this this dark one is a 50th centile, 50. Okay, so this 50 is the expected weight. So if somebody asks you what is the expected weight for a 1 year old child, all of you can see this chart, right? Can you see the
Yes,
chart?
ma'am.
So
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
give an
Yes, ma'am.
example. Okay. Okay, I'll give an example. Somebody asks you what should be the weight of the 1 year old child. So that is expected weight. Okay, 1 year is this 12 month. So you go up like this in this dark line. Okay, and from here you go to the left. So it is around 10.5 kg. So expected weight for 1 year old child, which will lie in this dark line. This is a 50th centile. Okay, so that is a 10.5 kg. So expected weight is the weight which we expect in that age. Okay, so in growth chart we have given the range. The weight can be up to 95th centile, and it can be below up to 5th centile. Weight to be inside this, but somebody asks you what is the expected weight for that age, you look the weight in this 5th centile. In the same way, if somebody asks you what should be the expected weight as a 2 years, so 2 years is this 24 month. Okay, so you go straight up like this up to this darkest dark light where it meets, and you go to the left. So left will be 12.5 kg. So this is in the kg. So at 2 years, the expected weight is 12.5 kg. Okay. So everybody on, because we do not add you. I've given you two examples. You need more example, or you understood expected weight?
Yes, ma'am. Understood.
Okay. So now if you know expected weight, same will be the height. Expected weight is what we expect in that age. Okay. So expected height. So we have to compare everybody whether there's malnutrition or not. So you will be having three type of growth chart like this. This one is for weight for age, and there will be different for boys and different for the girls. Weight for height will be there, and height for weight will be there. Three chart you have to plot to find out whether there is a malnutrition or not. So this is a weight for age. So here also same, you will get a 50th centile. Height, expected height is height for that age in this black line. So in the same way, if somebody asks you what should be the height of the child at 1 year, this is 12 months is 1 year, you go up like this, where the black, this 50th centile, where you meet, you go to the left. So height should be 75 centimeter. At birth, the length of the child will be 55 centimeters. So around 1 year, it will be 75 centimeter. So you go up like that. From the age which you want to know the expected height, you go up like this. In this, the darkest line, that's a 50th centile. Then you go to the left. So if you go to the left, where it meets is the expected length or the height. So this is how we try to find out the height, expected height in the growth chart. Okay. So there are certain age independent indices. So like sometime when mother come from the village, if you ask the age of the child, mother will not be knowing exactly. So how old is a child, if you ask, they will not be remembering the date of birth. And in such condition, you need some indices for which you do not need age. So few of them are like weight for height. For weight and height, you do not need the age. Okay. So these are the age independent indices. So weight for height. So here we take the weight for height, and mid-arm circumference I told you. So we take in 1 to 5 years, and the exact landmark where you take the mid-arm circumference is midway between the acromion process and olecranon process. Like there is a specific point you have to take the measurement. Like you cannot take it anywhere you like. So the exact point is midway between the acromion process. This is in where? Scapula. And olecranon process, this is in the humerus. So you first find out the midway between this, then you take the measurement. So if the measurement is more than 13.5 centimeter, this is normal. Between 12.5 to 13.5, there is some malnutrition. Less than 12.5 is severe malnutrition. So up to 1 year to 5 year, this mid-arm circumference is constant. So we take only in 1 to 5 year, not less than 1 year, not more than 5 years. This is triceps skin fold thickness. So over the triceps muscle, we look for the skin fold thickness, and there is a Sackir step. It has got the red, yellow, green zone. With this, we measure the mid-arm circumference. So if it falls in the red, there is severe malnutrition. If it falls in yellow, some malnutrition. Green, there is no malnutrition. And this is Bangle method. Some 4 centimeter ring will try to slip above the forearm. So if slips up, there is a malnutrition. So for this indices, you do not need the age for the child's malnutrition. Okay, there are certain classification of malnutrition. So Gomez classification. So if you want to write, you can write this. So Gomez, there are few classification, and most frequently used is Gomez, WHO, IAP classification. So Gomez classification, uh, so the weight you take, weight for age, when it lies between 90 to 75% of expected, this is the first degree, and 70 to 50, 60, 75 to 60%, this is second degree, and below 60% is a third degree malnutrition. So what you have to do is we have to find out the expected weight, then expected weight by absorbed weight by expected weight into 100 you have to do. So absorbed weight is the weight which you take and find in a baby. Suppose 1-year-old child comes to you, you took the weight is 7 kg, that is the absorbed weight. And expected weight is, which we did in the graph before, at 1 year, the expected weight should be around 10 kg. So we'll calculate 7 by 10 into 100 and we'll find out this percentage. So according to the percentage, we'll then classify first, second, third degree malnutrition. So that is the formula. So absorbed weight by expected weight into 100. Okay, so the patient come, you take the weight of the patient, that will be absorbed weight, and expected weight will find out from the growth chart at the 50th centile for that age into 100 you do, and you'll get this percentage, and according to percentage we classify the malnutrition of the child. So little bit less in weight, it will fall in grade 1 malnutrition. You will not be getting the sign symptom of marasmus. So when weight becomes severely less, goes below 3rd degree, then only you are getting the sign symptom of marasmus and kwashiorkor. So we may miss this grade 1 and grade 2 malnutrition if you do not plot the weight in the growth chart. So this is welcome classification. So in this, we take the weight, we find out the compare with the expected weight, and also look for the edema. So whenever there is edema, we consider kwashiorkor. When there is no edema, it's undernutrition. And when the weight is below 60% of expected, with edema is a marasmus kwashiorkor. Without edema is nutritional marasmus. So this is a classification of IAP, Indian Academy of Pediatrics. So here there are 4 degrees. In Gomez, 3 degree, here 4 degree. They have also put less than 50% of expected. So in exam, sometimes the examiner may ask you all these 3 or 4 classifications, and you should be knowing it. In Waterloo, you consider as acute malnutrition when weight for height is low, uh, acute on chronic, weight for height low, and height for age low. Okay, and stunting is weight for height normal, weight for age low. So when there is a acute malnutrition, first there will be loss of weight, and the malnutrition continues, there will be loss of height. So first there will be loss of weight, and then later only there will be loss of height. So when the height will be reduced, there will be chronic malnutrition. So for height to be less, at least the child should be not having nutrition properly for months and years. So this Arnold classification is a classification given according to the measurement of the mid-arm circumference. So that we did, I showed you how to take mid-arm circumference. So this is jellyfish classification. They don't ask in practical, but theoretically you should know. So these classifications you can note down, okay? You may not be finding in your book. If you want to write, I can repeat the slides again. So this McLaren's, so this also you may need in the written exam, and theoretically they will not ask you. So another one is WHO. This is in your book, and you should know this. According to WHO, they classify malnutrition moderate and severe. So in moderate, there is no edema. In severe, there is an edema. So they have taken weight for height, and they have got a different chart. Okay, they use standard deviation, which I showed you was the CDC chart, growth chart, and there we have got the centile chart. So in WHO they use the standard deviation. So if the weight falls between -2 to -3, the standard deviation, there's a moderate undernutrition, and if it falls below less than 3rd centile, then this is a severe malnutrition. Similarly, height for age, standard deviation -2 to 3 is moderate, and less than -3 is severe. So if you compare with CDC, so they will have in a percentage of expected, and in WHO they had used the standard deviation. So they have different growth chart WHO has, but you have to know WHO also. So wasting, I've told you, this is a loss of weight. Stunting is weight for height. So stunting and wasting is less than 2 standard below or less than 3rd centile. So now coming to the marasmus and kwashiorkor proper. Okay, so marasmus is when there is actually there's a lack of the calorie. Some degree of protein deficiency will also occur, but mainly there is a deficiency of the carbohydrate, and there will be gross wasting of muscle, wasting of subcutaneous tissue. Subcutaneous fats are gone. That's why patient look very emaciated, and there will be stunting, but there will be no edema. In marasmus, there is no edema. When there is edema, it will be kwashiorkor. So high incidence in the infancy and body weight, if you take, it will be less than 60% of expected weight for that age. So weight of the child divided by expected weight into 100. When you do that for that age, it will come less than 60%. So that will be marasmus. And height will be also affected gradually. So clinical feature, in clinical feature, there are certain essential feature. This means if you do not have this essential feature, you cannot diagnose marasmus. So these features must be there. This is an essential feature. So essential features are growth retardation, which is evident by loss of weight, subnormal height for weight, gross muscle wasting, as well as subcutaneous fat wasting, and no edema. So this much feature must be there to tell the patient has the marasmus. And these are other features which may or may not present. Skin may be dry, scaly, hair become hypopigmented, lusterless, dry, very dry, brown, like no shining. Abdomen become distended, bony prominence are very prominent. A baby in marasmus is very irritable and very hungry all the time. He wants to eat. So you can grade marasmus according to the loss of fat. So fat loss in marasmus will start from different places according to severity. So firstly, it will lose fat from the axilla, that is grade 1. Then from abdomen and gluteal region, this is grade 2. And there's a loss of fat from chest, there is a grade 3. And at fourth stage only, there will be buccal pad of fat is lost. So when the buccal pad of fat is gone, this is grade 4 marasmus. So you can see the picture of the marasmic child. So fat is gone from the chest, buttock is not shown here. Fat is gone also from the buccal pad of fat is also gone. So which grade of marasmus do you think this is? 1, 2, 3, 4.
Grade 4.
Yes. So this is a severely marasmic child. So the last one is the fat will go from this buccal pad. So if you see this, you can diagnose it's a marasmus. Okay, we'll come to kwashiorkor also. Then after seeing the picture, you can differentiate the two. So now coming to the kwashiorkor. Kwashiorkor is mainly deficiency in protein. So markedly retarded growth. So again, it has got an essential feature. These features must be there to diagnose kwashiorkor. So the growth retardation will be there, and muscle wasting with retention of subcutaneous fat. Now this child will not look emaciated. There will be psychomotor retardation, listless, apathy, lack of interesting to the surrounding. So this child just keep quiet without any interest to the surrounding. The marasmic child is very irritable, always hungry. So this child does not show any interest to the surrounding and does not want to eat. So these are the difference between the marasmus and kwashiorkor. Sometimes there is a question, write the difference between marasmus and kwashiorkor. You have to write all these things. And in kwashiorkor, as this is due to decrease of the protein, if you look for the albumin, it will be less than 2.5 gram per dl. Serum albumin will be less. Because of decreased albumin, you'll get edema in the kwashiorkor due to decreased oncotic pressure. So other features, this may or may not be there. There may be liver may be enlarged due to deposition of the fat. Hair become thin, brittle, easy replicable. And when you look properly in the hair, you may see alternate band of hypopigmentation and normal pigmentation. And this is also called the flag sign. So in the same here, some portion looks normal, some portion look hypopigmented, patch you can see. So this is like the time when child get proper nutrition, hair will be looking normal. And at the time when the child has poor nutrition, hair will be dull. So this is called the flag sign. So skin become dry, erythematous become red, somewhere hyperpigmented, somewhere hypopigmented. There may be petechia and ecchymosis. It's called flaky pent dermatosis. So there'll be recurrent infection because they have immune deficiency. So this is a flaky pent dermatosis. Sometimes they'll put this in the OSCE. You may get this picture. So you can see that erythematous is red, somewhere is hypopigmented, somewhere is hyperpigmented. So this is a flaky pent dermatosis of the malnutrition. So this child is of kwashiorkor. Now you can see like the child is not emaciated. So child is edematous. So you can see the pedal edema here. Their abdomen distended, child looks apathetic, does not show interest to the surrounding. So with this two picture, you can differentiate between marasmus and kwashiorkor. So both are malnutrition, but they look totally different. So this one you may be confusing with the condition where you get the generalized edema in children, like in nephrotic syndrome, nephritic syndrome, heart failure, other differentiating factor. Okay, you may get confused. Okay, so that was the features of marasmus and kwashiorkor, and also we have to look for the other micronutrient deficiency. I told you at the beginning of the class, you'll be looking for the anemia, iron, folate, vitamin B12 deficiency. For vitamin A deficiency on the eyes, you look for in vitamin C, you look for the gum and also the skin. For vitamin D deficiency, you look all the sign in the chest, in the scalp, in the wrist, and all those things. So you'll be looking all these things also. You'll even when you'll be examining the patient of kwashiorkor and marasmus. So now you can make out the child as malnutrition or not by taking height, weight. You can classify malnutrition. You can diagnose marasmus. You can diagnose kwashiorkor. Now we are going to the treatment. So principal is treatment is proper evaluation of severity and associated symptomatic infection and nutritional deficiency, and treatment of complication, and also nutritional rehabilitation. So nutritional rehabilitation is also very important because the patient becomes sick, comes to hospital. We treat all the problem, complication, and if you do not teach about the rehabilitation of the nutrition, how to give proper food in the home, once you send the child back home, he will be back to the older environment where he is not getting the proper nutrition. So again, the child will suffer from the malnutrition. So nutritional rehabilitation is also an important part. So what are the complications? If somebody asks you the cause of death due to in the malnutrition, you'll write the complication. So because child will die because of this complication. So what are the complications is child may go into hypoglycemia. So these people does not have stored glucose in their body. In our body we have a stored glucose. So if we miss 1-2 meal, then the problem will not occur to us. But this child, if you do not get a proper meal, even 1 or 2 meal is missed, there will be hypoglycemia, that is a sugar below 45 milligram. So in when there's hypoglycemia, child become irritable, lethargic, unconscious, even the seizure may come. Hypothermia, they have no stored fat, so they cannot keep their body warm, so they frequently go into hypothermia. So the place where we keep the malnutrition child, the ward should be warm, otherwise they will go into hypothermia. So they don't have immunity, so they will be having infection mainly by the gram negative organism, and they may not have sign symptoms. So when there's infection in other child, we get like fever and other symptoms, but these patient may not have symptom. So when a malnourished child come, we always have to treat as the child has some infection and we'll give some antibiotic. So site of infection may be anywhere: skin, GI tract, urinary tract, respiratory tract. There is a high chance of tuberculosis, but tuberculin test may be negative. Okay, in malnutrition, if you do the Mantox test, you must have heard, right? Mantox test, heard or not?
Yes, ma'am.
Have you heard? Yes, so you do in tuberculosis. So Mantox test may not be positive all the time. There are the condition where you get a false negative. Even the child has tuberculosis, the Mantox test may be negative. So one of the cause is malnutrition. In malnutrition, immunity is depressed, and Mantox test is a form of long-term immunity. So immunity is depressed. So even there is a tuberculosis, it will be negative. And Mantox test may be positive. So most of us, we have a in the dormant form because of our immunity, they cannot cause disease. Once our immunity goes down, the organism which are in our body in the dormant form will produce disease. So in this malnourished children, so at the condition when there's a malnutrition, this fairing of the tuberculosis may occur. And we also have to look for the investigation for infection of the other type, and we have to treat with the broad spectrum antibiotic. So they may go into septic shock, so we have to treat with broad spectrum antibiotic. There may be dehydration, and in dehydration also the skin will be inelastic, and in marasmus also skin look very dry and loss of elasticity. You may be confused with dehydration. In dehydration, we very slowly in case of malnourished child. If you give very quickly the fluid, they will go into the heart failure. So slowly we have to correct. Normally we correct dehydration with ORS, but in case of malnutrition, we give a special fluid that is called Restomal. Sometimes somebody may ask you, okay, what is Restomal? It is a rehydration solution which we use in the malnourished child to correct dehydration. So normally this malnourished child has high sodium, less potassium in their body. So if you give normal ORS, it will, the sodium content will be high for their body and potassium will be less. So this Restomal is how we prepare is in 1 pack of ORS we put 2 liters of water. Normally in 1 pack of ORS we put 1 liter of water, but here we'll put 2 liters of water, and we add sucrose and we add mineral mix solution. So this is a Restomal. So if somebody asks you what is Restomal, this is a rehydration solution to correct the dehydration in the malnutrition, and we'll rehydrate slowly, not very fast. In normally dehydration, we correct every 4 hours and we look after 4 hours. But here we are correcting over 12 hours to prevent the heart failure. So this is a difference in ORS and Restomal. You can see in Restomal, sugar is high. We added sugar because they go into hypoglycemia. And in Restomal, sodium is less compared to the ORS because this patient already had so high sodium in the body. And in Restomal, potassium is high. In ORS, less because this malnourished child, they have less potassium in their body. Okay, and we added this all the minerals in it. Okay, so this is the difference. So Restomal composition you can get in the book. So electrolyte imbalance, I told you that there is a high sodium in their body, so we try to decrease sodium when we give from outside, and there is a low potassium they have, that is called hypokalemia. So symptom of hypokalemia is abdominal distension, muscles become weak. And if you do the ECG, there will be ST depression and T inversion. So we have to give potassium supplementation, 30 to 40 milliequivalent per liter of fluid you are giving to the child. So they have the high fluid content in their body, so they may go into heart failure anytime. So when we'll be giving fluid, we should be careful. So they will go into heart failure. Okay, so these are the complications in the malnutrition, and these are also the cause of death. So if somebody asks you what is the cause of death, you can write the complications. Okay, for associated nutritional deficiency, how we are going to treat? For severe anemia, we have to give blood transfusion if the hemoglobin is very low, and if it's a little bit high, we can add up iron and folic acid. We have to also treat for vitamin A deficiency. This treatment we have done in the last class. So according to age, the dose is different. You have to know this. So here we are giving the single dose. In vitamin A deficiency as such, we are giving 3 doses. So now this is a nutritional rehabilitation order, dietary therapy. Okay. So what we do is we should start feeding as early as possible. So route of feeding, if child can take adequately by mouth, we give oral feeding. And sometimes child does not eat, like in kwashiorkor, child does not want to eat. In such condition, we have to put the NG tube and we have to give feeding how much is required within 24 hours. In the first class, I told you how to calculate the calorie requirement according to the weight of the child. Do you remember? I taught you, right?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
ma'am.
So yes. So with that formula, you have to calculate how much calorie to be given in 24 hours. So that much calorie the child should take by mouth. If the child take orally, we can give oral feeding. But if does not take, then by NG also we have to give. So that much calorie the child must take anyhow. Okay. So feeding to be given frequently, every 2 hourly. Okay, even at night. Number of feet 12 feet on the first day, then gradually decrease because they go into hypoglycemia. So every 2 hourly, even at night, we have to give feeding. It's called round the clock feeding. Okay, and type of feeding will be energy dense feeding. That is, you are giving the small amount of food, but energy should be high. Suppose now you calculate the calorie requirement. Okay, of a child need 1000 calorie in a day. So fluid you can give is 1000 ml in a day, and from 1000 ml of milk how much calorie you get? From 100 ml of milk how much calorie we get? We read in the last class. From
62.
65, so around 60-65 calorie we get from 100 ml of milk. So from 1000 ml of milk we are getting only 650 calorie. Okay, so fluid we can give is only 1000 ml, but from 1000 ml we are getting only 650 calorie. But according to the formula, for 10 kg weight child, the child will be needing 1000 calorie. So from 100, from 1000 ml of milk we cannot get 1000 calorie. We are getting only 650 calorie, right? So we are deficient is 350 calorie, right? So when you calculate fluid and calorie from the same formula you get. So if 10 kg child, so multiplying by 100, you can give fluid 1000 ml, and calorie requirement is also 1000 ml. So 1000 ml milk when you give, you are getting only 650 calories. So we have deficiency of 350 ml, right? So fluid we cannot go above that, but we need 1000 calorie from that much of fluid only. So we are lacking 350 calorie, right? Are you getting what I'm saying?
Yes, ma'am.
फ्लुइड हामीले बढाउन पाएन, त्यति नै फ्लुइड दिँदा उसलाई क्यालोरी पुगेन हैन, मिल्क त्यति दिँदाखेरि. नाउ हाउ यु आर गोइङ टु इन्क्रिज द क्यालोरी फ्रम ओन्ली द्याट 1000 ml of milk is you are going to add up sugar, we are going to add ghee or butter. Okay, so in 1000 ml of milk, so 350 calorie is deficient. So you are going to calculate, you are going to add up sugar. So if you add 5 gram of sugar, you will be getting how much calorie? 5 4 20 calorie. Okay, so 1 teaspoon of sugar you will get 40 calorie. So how much is deficient? You are going to add sugar, and in the same way we can add also ghee or butter or oil, because 1 gram of fat you are getting 9 calorie. Okay, so deficient part you are going to add sugar or ghee. Okay, so 350 calorie, we are not going to add a fluid, but we are going to add sugar or butter. So this is how you are making the high energy, and this is called energy dense food. Everybody got it? बुझ्यो कि बुझेन?
बुझ्यो म्याम.
सो जति हामीले फ्लुइड बढाउन पाएन, तर त्यति फ्लुइडबाट हामीलाई पुग्ने क्यालोरी नआएपछि जति चाहिँ कम भयो त्यति नै सुगर अथवा ओइल दुधमै एड गर्ने, मिल्कमै एड गर्ने. ओके, so that is energy dense feed, and you are going to feed that 1000 ml in 24 hours. So this is called energy dense feeding. So from less amount you are getting high energy. So this is the feeding for the malnourished child. Okay, so calorie calculation is done according to the present weight. Usko weight kati cha? On the first day we'll provide 80 kilocalorie per kg per day, then gradually we'll increase. Ekachoti they cannot tolerate, so we'll start with 80 calorie, then gradually we increase to 150 calorie per kg per day. So this much calorie you should be getting in 24 hours, and total fluid is only 100 to 125 ml per kg per day. So 10 kg को child छ भने 1000 ml मात्रै दिन सक्यो, तर क्यालोरी तिमीले 150 सम्म जाँदाखेरि धेरै चाहियो. सो नपुगेको कुरा will add up by sugar and ghee. So this is a calorie dense feeding. So other nutrition supplement like potassium, zinc, folic acid, and iron, we are going to supplement. Okay, so now you are giving 2 hourly feeding even at night. You are giving energy dense feeding. You are doing everything. So after a few days, if your treatment is right, you should see some change in the patient. So how do you know you are doing right thing? You are treating the patient properly or not? So if you are treating the patient properly, if you are doing the right treatment, then after a few days, the appetite should come to the normal and child should be taking all the feeding orally. So previously we are giving even by NG tube, but now the child should be taking orally. How much you are supposed to give in 24 hours. Child should be constantly gaining weight, and all infection and this deficiency will be corrected. Vitamin A deficiency, mineral deficiency, and child should have got a proper immunization. And by the time when the child is in the hospital, we should be teaching the mother also how to feed the child in the home, because we cannot be with the child all the time. The person who is going to be with the child is the mother. So if mother does not know how to give proper nutrition with the adequate calorie, again child will come back with the same problem. So we'll be teaching the mother also. So we have to teach the mother with the normal food which we eat. From that, the adequate calorie the child should be getting. So you make some nutritional diet chart from the mother, to the mother you can make. So in the breakfast you will give this much ml of milk, one egg, one banana. Or in the lunch, how much rice, how much dal, how much vegetable to be given. In the snacks, what are the food to be given. So in 24 hours the child should be taking the adequate calorie from the normal food. He will not be taking only milk and sugar when go back home. Okay, so this is a nutritional rehabilitation. So this thing we did in the first class, that's why you have to know the nutritional value. So you should be able to teach the mother. घरमा गएर हामीले खाने normal खाना यति यति खानु पर्यो भनेर you have to write for the mother, so she will go back and give that proper amount of food to the child. Otherwise mother will not be knowing. She will be again giving the previous food, and again child will go back to the malnourished state. So if our treatment is not proper, so by fourth day there will be no regain of appetite, and there will be no loss of edema in the kwashiorkor child, and there will be failure of disappearance of edema in the 10th day, and there is no weight gain. Now there is something wrong. Either our diagnosis is wrong, or we are not being able to treat the child properly. And in such condition, we have to also think for any chronic disease child is suffering from, maybe by HIV, tuberculosis, or any other thing. So if you are doing whatever you know, but the child is not recovering, then you have to look for where is the problem. Okay, so I think I came to the end of the lecture. So we have done the marasmus and kwashiorkor. I think now you know how to